All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Support webinar. Today's date is April 29th, 2019. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is Art 101, Draw on Your Charts. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars we have, our live trading room, or anything else with Viper should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? All right, if not, we're going to go ahead and get started. By the way, just a real quick heads up to everyone. Be sure if you're a new member, or if you haven't really kept up with some of the webinars and things like that, be sure to go occasionally into your members area, with your user ID and your password, and scroll down. Be sure and peruse this book here. This is a PDF that we wrote quite a while ago. We're going to update, by the way, some of our training just as soon as that Ninja 8 finally, hits the streets. We're hoping anytime soon, but we will get all this stuff updated once it does. But be sure and take a look at the ebook. That's a bunch of videos about how to operate Object Trader. It's not how to take the trades, it's how to operate Object Trader. And then, of course, you've got your 4 trade setups here, your identified swings, which is a really good one. It'll really teach you how to see the identified swings, and then phantom trades. Those are basically the 4 that I would recommend right off the bat to really learn how to do Viper. And then, of course, this is a lot of how to do the scripts and to take some trades, things like that. Also, when we had added new features in Object Trader. And then, of course, our regular webinars are down here. By the way, I missed this one. That wasn't Thursday night. That was Saturday morning, so I'll fix that. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and go out of this. Now, real quick show of hands. How many of you utilize the webinar template? Do you use that at all? I'm just curious, because I know that I like to personally draw lines on it. And if you actually draw, for instance, see, this is 01 to 02, you can actually draw more of a trend line rather than a straight line. And you can pretty much tell, where the thing is going to be the next time around. Okay, because trend lines are really, really important when you're trading. A lot of our traders have really woken up to that. And so basically, if I saw this happening right here, I'd pretty much be looking at, hey, this is resistance up here, and this is support down here, and I'd probably draw another trend line, along those lows there, and that's pretty much, where we're at right now anyway. And so you just really want to draw on your charts, okay? Because to give an example, could you box this in, here? Because more than likely this was probably a predictor. Matter of fact, we can put the predictor on. It went above it, but you could have boxed it in when it went back down below support, couldn't you? You got a quick little trade. Here looks like another one right here, and so on and so on, okay? So if you get in the habit of drawing on your charts, you're going to really find that you can make some very good trade decisions. There was a trade that I personally made this morning, and Raymond actually got up a little earlier than I did to see if Raymond's in here tonight. I don't see him, but he'll probably listen to this. But anyway, he drew a trend line on crude oil. I think he got up at roughly around 5 o'clock in the morning his time, which is actually 4 o'clock my time, because he's in New York. So, drawing on your charts can actually be, quite good. And the beauty of what we've designed is when you draw on your charts, you can turn those into trades. Okay, so let's take a look and see what's happening as we speak with the chart. Okay, you can clearly see that basically, let's draw those same lines again. We've got our trend line across here, like so. Okay, see how it hit that? We didn't even know that at the time, but talked about drawing the trend line. All right, let's get this into a little different color so we can see it. All right, and looks to me, instead of drawing a trend line, I'm going to draw straight support because you can pretty much see it right across there, like so. All right, so that's pretty much what you've got right now. Now, what you would want to do, as long as this is choppy sideways, is you would want to be trading this in the direction of the trend. And right now, obviously the trend is down, right? So we've got our line drawn on our chart, and we could simply, look for like little moves up to resistance, for instance, and then rollovers. We could even take them with the power meter when it turns red, if it turns red. And if it was to break up, I always like to look at charts both ways, because so far all this has done was a phantom way back on, looks like last night. And then here's today's start right here. Okay. So in this little area right here, and I'm not up this time of morning at all, but if I got up and I saw this is pretty much what I would be looking at to trade this. I would be looking at, possibly a kiss in this area. I would probably even draw another line, just in case that's only a fluke there. I'd draw a straight horizontal line across there also. See it? Where I drew it from just this 01 area. So if we got anywhere in this little sweet spot up in here, I'd be looking for a trade. Okay, and keep in mind that if this was to decide to break up, we're going to expect it to at least break above lightning 3, come back and kiss it, and take off. We're looking that direction also, but in the meantime, we're actually just simply going sideways. Does everybody see that? Or the other way to do it is you've got to literally just stay off of this chart until it breaks down. Or, you've got to sell resistance and buy support, or buy support and sell resistance. There's really no way around it, except for the fact that what you're looking at right now has got 78 support approximately, and roughly 6301 area on resistance. Okay, and that's the way I would draw on my chart on that one. Now, like I said, you can wait until this turns red, as long as you've got at least 10 ticks to your support. You see what I'm getting at here is, when you do lightning, you don't know if it's going to be like a thrust down with all the bars down and then barely a retrace or something like that. But the whole idea of lightning is that it's designed as a zigzag. Okay, and right now, of course, you can clearly see that it's zigzagging upward to resistance, right? So let's draw it and let's see when it breaks. I'm gonna draw it from here since that line's there. All right. So let's do Object Trader, and since we're sideways now, what are we doing, everyone? We're going to be scalping, right? Now, usually when you scalp, and this is oil, so it's $10 a tick. So what I probably want to do is something like this, like $10, 10 ticks type of thing, okay? And keep in mind that when this starts, if it rolls over and we get any kind of a lightning break, we're not going to take it unless we can get 10 ticks. So we're going to watch this. 91 to 78 is still 10 ticks, right? But we've got to get, some type of a zigzag so we can tell exactly where we're at, okay? And we know resistance is right up there at that top. Otherwise, they'll fake you in all day long with just one closed bar on a 4-range chart. Okay, let's do our little region. It's trying to go up there. Something like that. All right. And if this was to decide to break to the downside instead, could we go ahead and actually put it like below that swing? As long as we got 10 ticks, we could. Okay, but we've got to get 10 ticks just down to this support. When it's sideways like this, we've got 78 to 01. That's only 23 ticks. That's on the cusp of not tradable. Okay, but technically it's also a little higher than that too. You see what I mean? So, you know, in a way it is tradable. Okay, here we go. We got our trade. All right, we're going to leave it at 10. And we'll even tag another set if it gets up there again and put our stop nice and tight just in case. Everybody see how I drew on that chart? And well, it looks like we're going to get a decent trade. We're up 20 bucks. Whoopee. There's 60. Now it's not going to get that trade now unless it gets up to that top again. And it might. If it gets up there, we'll have one more because I've got mine set at 3. Let's see. Yeah, I would stay out of that. Brian, the one thing about this type of stuff like this right here, what I'd recommend doing, especially if it goes against you like that, see, like that one did. All right, we didn't put our stop with exit on close, which I really do like. Let's see if we can get this again. We're down 100 bucks. I'm going to like box it in instead. Let's see if we can get something. Now, see, that was actually, you know, just right at resistance. And it, okay, we're back in again. Let's see if we can get our 100 back anyway. I forgot to put that on exit on close. I love exit on close, not touch. Because touch will nail you most every time. Now we're digging out, so let's see if we can get out. See if we can get out. There we go. Well, we got 110 bucks. Everybody see that? Okay. Now look at this. Bounce right off support is what it's trying to do. See there? Now I don't personally like to buy the support as well as I like to short the resistance when it's got this color background and this midband. Okay. Now if you want to, you can try this trade right here, but be very careful if you do. Okay. Because you're right at support, and if you're going to buy it at support, you pretty much literally have to buy it and put your stop nice and tight. Okay, I don't recommend doing that because to me this is a short background and I wouldn't do that. Okay, let's see if it works just for the fun of it since I did do that. Let's see if it does. Well, we might get something. We got it. All right. All right, now look, it's right back at resistance again. What's this going to do? All right, well, if you get in the habit of actually waiting for it to stair step back down as long as it's got 10 ticks, you can do pretty well on these because to give you an example, like right now, you've got a little swing right underneath here, right? That would be like boxing it in. Okay, so if it does decide to break that, we could go ahead and short, and we could also put, since this went up not quite so high, we could put our short at the top also. Whoop, let's see. There we go. All right, so we could see if we could get in up here. Remember, we drew our lines on our chart, so we're pretty sure it's not going above that trend line anyway, although it did here, but this is still pretty sideways. Okay. Now, like I said, conservative way to do it is not to try to sell it when it's trying to head up, although you get a better spot. You notice we did get taken out of that one because we didn't turn on our exit on close, but we still got up decently. Okay, let's see if we can get 10 more ticks. Just see if we can get 10 more. And like Brian said, one thing about it, you can absolutely stay out of this kind of a mess, but keep in mind that a breakout trade is not a smart way to go either. So, you know, a resistance type trade is not too shabby. Let's see if we can get something. If that closes above that, you should get this turning green like that, and it's not quite closed. See if we get a green on this. See how that turned green? Now, the conservative way to take this, though, instead of the way we just did it, see, we sold it at resistance, all right, would be more to let it, you know, possibly like even break a trend line, to give an example. Okay, see a trend line you could draw across there? A lot of our people really like those. Let me close this out for a second and I'll show you. This is like drawing on your charts. So you've got a thrust, retrace. You could easily draw your trend line right through there. Okay, now if they get this turning red, I would probably just go ahead and do a market order. Okay, and remember they got to take out this 06 area for sure to go any higher. Remember we had 11 over here, now we got 6. You could even draw a trend line. I like to draw on my charts, so you could draw a trend line like so, and more than likely that's going to hit its head at that trend line. Everybody see that? Now if it blows through it, what would we do? We'd wait for it to thrust up, pull back, kiss, box in, take off. Okay, but right now we're still looking at shorting because we've got our support, or pardon me, our resistance across the top there. Let's see, I just meant to wait till it gets to the resistance and short. Absolutely, you got to wait till it gets to that resistance and short it, and always make sure that you've got 10 ticks too. Or if you're, only shooting for like 5 with 4 contracts or something like that, then that's fine too. But keep in mind that, sometimes you could get stopped before you can even get 5 ticks, obviously, also. I personally like at least 8 to 10. Okay, we've still got it set on close below would actually touch below, pardon me, would get us in this trade. So we'll see if we get the trade. And then let me ask you a quick question. Okay, we got it. Where would you put your stop on this one right here? Well, you've got a swing for sure identified over here at 6. I would do exit on close. That's still risking 11. Okay, but let's see if we get something out of it. Maybe we'll get 10 ticks, maybe we won't. We'll find out. But keep in mind we can also go again too. For instance, if you want to really protect this trade, let it break this swing right here, where my cursor's at, and then protect your trade just along in here, just in case this isn't going to go our way. We don't know if it's going to yet. Let's see if it does. Yeah, we're okay. Now I'm not so sure. Let's protect it just in case. Yep. That's going to actually get it unless that bar closes down. That bar closed down. We lucked out. All right, everybody see that, why it did it? That's a little swing right across there. All right, is it going to do it one more time? Well, it's bouncing off support again, so what are we doing as traders? We're looking very possibly for another resistance kiss, right? Okay. Now, if this starts getting lower highs, you could actually even go ahead. Let's see if we can draw another trend line. We don't have a candle down yet, so we need a candle down to draw a trend line, right? See if we get one. Now, the way that's starting to get lower highs right there, we may take out this support. So let's see if we've still got 10 ticks if we get this trade. Let's see. Actually, even down here. So do we have 10 ticks if it breaks that trend line? Yes, but we would definitely put a tight stop on it, like right across here. Okay, let's see if we get something. Maybe I can get it. There's your candle down. Well, it took it out. Unfortunately, I missed that one. Yeah, we missed it. That's all right. I forgot to turn it on. Everybody see where you could actually do that? Technically, that didn't do a, well, maybe it is now. Let's see if we can get it again. Move my bar right into the candle. Let's see if we can get something even right here. Just kissed resistance again at our other line. See, it's predictor. And let's see if we can get something. I accidentally got that trade, but let's see if we can get. We got our stop just above 6. Tighten it a little bit. See how drawing on your charts will help. Now this was at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now I'm not up at this time right here, but this is kind of what I diagnosed here. And more than likely, I would probably tighten my stop on this, because anytime you get close to like $500 for the morning, I think you're doing pretty well. You could bring it down to the swing. You could take one off if you wanted to. You know, for instance, just go ahead and buy one to cover, buy another one to cover, and then just ride it. Okay? So, and it looks like that might get it again, and it did. Okay? Now, again, we could draw a trend line, right? Looks like, see if we can get that little trade right there. If this bar goes up, that's going to be my trend line. Oh, I did an inside on that. Let's see if it'll give us 10 ticks. Everybody see how to trade this right here? Now, in a second, I'm going to go over how you can also trade it watching these predictors and lightning, okay? Because what I did is I actually shorted resistance where I'd drawn on my chart, okay? And also when it broke these little lightning swings too, you know, like by getting in these trend lines, all right? So let's get rid of lightning and let's look at it from a predictor standpoint. See if we can see that one good and clear. All right, so see you're stair-stepping, stair-stepping, stair-stepping. So easily a trend line would have got you 10 ticks. You're stair-stepping, stair-stepping. Easily a trend line would get you 10 ticks. I'm beginning to like trend lines extremely, extremely well. But you do have to know how to trade them. This one would have probably been, see where it kind of went up candle, down candle, up candle, up. Draw the trend line like that, and you would have still got 10 ticks too, like this. So when the predictor actually said the trade was setting up, drawing those trend lines actually paid off on 1, 2, 3, and even the fourth one. See there? So that can actually be a pretty profitable way to trade, just drawing on your charts. Anybody have any questions on this so far, by the way? By the way, that's actually another great trade if you just kept a runner on. But what if you just totally missed that trade? You want to see if we can get another 10 ticker? We'll find out. Well, you got 10 ticks to the bottom. Would you take that trade? I probably wouldn't, especially if it didn't at least retrace a little bit. This looks like it's going to break, though. That's all right. We'll get a minimum criteria trade instead if we can get it. Let's see if we can get one. Oh, that's a red background now. There's a minimum criteria trade that's going to set up, I'll bet you. Let's draw our lines on our chart. See if we can get a minimum criteria for 10 ticks. Not yet. Not yet. It's got to close above stealth and above line 2. Hadn't closed above either one of them yet. That's almost above line 2. There's above line 2, but not stealth. You could take that on a bar rollover like that and put your stop nice and tight just in case. That's not quite what I call a minimum criteria because it closed almost on stealth and didn't quite touch it. Let's see if we can get 10 ticks though. Tighten my stop. It looks like we got 10 ticks. That was also a predictor. Yeah, somebody caught that. Predictor trade. Now we've broken, we could actually draw some pretty good trend lines and use what we've always taught. We're going to look for drawing on our chart. Got resistance right up here. You could, well, let's get rid of some lines. Let's draw on this thing because I see something else setting up. That's actually breaking that trend line right there even. Let's see if we can get another minimum criteria trade though. Okay, that went above line 2. That closed above stealth, didn't it? No, right on the money on it. This one looks like it's going to, though. You want to take it for the fun of it and see if we can get 10 ticks? All right, let's draw a trend line. Gonna have to hurry. 10 ticks. I think I just, well, won't let go of my trend line. There we go. See if we can get that. Okay, we're in it. That's a minimum criteria, by the way, if it goes back below line 2. So I'll even sell another one to see if I can get those 10 ticks. And I'll put my stop just right above that swing. Everybody see that? Only got stopped on one trade so far. Only got stopped on one trade so far. We may get that one, we'll see. Didn't yet. How many of you just go for 10 ticks here and there, you know, when you're trading? Because keep in mind, the markets they absolutely do not go up except about 30% of the time. So, you know, lots of times when I'm trading the kiddos account, just to give an example, I just try to get $300 or $400 lots of days. Now this trade right here, Raymond was actually up at 4:30, if I remember right, that's what he said, or 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, he drew this trend line. I didn't get up till 5, but I still got the trade, but I'll show you where I got it. He actually drew a trend line like this, and when it went through that trend line, he actually went long, and you can set your targets or whatever. But trend line breaks are really cool. Bring it up there to previous resistance at mid-band. Not happy hanging out in the trade too long, Thomas? Well, one thing keep in mind, though, if you actually, oh, I see what you mean. You're talking about for a long time like a runner, because this is what you get most of the time right here. Maybe not even this tight, but you get mostly this type of stuff about 70% of the time. You know, I'm happy, for instance, like if I get up and I see something like this breaking a trend line and I take a chance at it, I'll go ahead and put a tight stop like with the previous swing and just let the thing go. But keep in mind that, you know, trend lines on your chart, you're actually breaking from a downtrend to an uptrend when you break them, right? And you can look for this particular little deal all the time. See where it barely takes out the low? That's like a double bottom with a wick on a large. And that was just strictly a break. Now, when I got up, actually, you know, closer to 5 o'clock, this was actually already heading up, but all you could do was actually box it in. I'll show you what you can also do. Now, keep in mind that when this is actually breaking a trend line like this, and you're not up just yet, because I wasn't up till 5 a.m. pretty much on the money as far as at my computer. I couldn't get this trade until 5 a.m. and I'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit and I'll show you. There's 502 right there. Now, could you take a chance on this trade and just go, you know what? This thing's heading up. I'm just going to go ahead and take it. Can you do that? Well, if you've drawn on your charts, you can, because let me show you. Let's just get this out of the way for just a minute. Your stop could literally be just right underneath here. Okay. Now, when I do something like that myself, if I happen to get up and that's the time I got up and, you know, somebody else drew way down here at 4:30 in the morning, I wasn't up, then this is still, to me, a good trade because they're definitely breaking to the upside. And sometimes you have to actually train your eye to see it without the colors, because this is getting in early. See, even stealth was turning big time green. And if you use like a true 10 chart, this is what, let me show you what Raymond actually used. Bear with me one second. True trend chart. Okay. And you can clearly see if you drew on your chart, you know, just like I did on that other one, using this little tool right here, like so, that's all green. You know, now unfortunately, we haven't figured out a way just to make trend lines, you know, magically give you those backgrounds. So you have to train your eye to see them. Okay. But you can clearly see if you draw lightning, for instance, on this chart right here, like so. I mean, that's your lightning swing right there. Okay. Now I wouldn't put it clear under here, obviously, because if you put it way down here, that's like a, you know, 24 tick stop. That's a $480 hit. Okay. So when I got in that trade this morning, I just simply did this. I said, okay, if you come 2 ticks under that with exit on close, and that still would have cost me. And my first trade out of the gate, I didn't want to lose anything on, but I also saw that it was stair stepping up. So, you know, you can actually absolutely take a trade like that. See how that's trying to check that support right there? That's what they do continually. And see that support held so far. All they did was like wicked it by 1 tick. Now, did I feel some heat on mine just for a minute or so? Yeah. But I trust lightning quite a bit. And especially since that was really breaking to the upside. Now, I don't remember exactly what I got in. I think it was 80. I'm pretty sure it was 84, but it was on this side of it when I got it, because this was barely me up at the time, 511. So I think it was this side of the trade that I got it. But anyway, see how drawing on your charts can really pay off big time? What's that lightning doing right now? It's heading up. And if you draw the lightning on your charts, you can really see, you know, this is your primary swing, this is your secondary swing. If they're going to head up, they will not take out your secondary swing. But you can protect it at your primary swing and then just get in on the retrace when they finally retrace enough for you to get in. Okay, let me see if I missed something here. Just a second. Let's see. Art, I think I got yours, right? Bear with me a second. You tried asking a question about 6301 resistance earlier. You're talking about when we were looking at this side of the chart right over here. Well, you had resistance actually from overnight. If you drew your resistance lines, if you draw them just straight, to give an example, you would have drawn here. You would have drawn probably here if you happen to seen it. And then you would have drawn here, like so, and you would have drawn here on your lightning 3. Like I say, usually when I get something where you're starting to get where you can draw like a trend line, I draw trend lines. But if they get in those areas and I can box them, you know, at these resistance, see, like I said, you know, here, trend line break, 10 ticks, trend line break, 10 ticks, trend line break, that one didn't get 10 ticks, trend line break again, got more than 10 ticks. See what I mean? So you didn't know when this was going to actually break fully, right? So if you're just going to scalp, then obviously you've got to just go for like 10 ticks and maybe go, you know, 2 or 3 contracts. Okay. So you would have gotten 1 trade, 2 trades. This one might not have, might have, and this one definitely did. So a person could still be up pretty nicely. But also, like I said, keep in mind when they break these trend lines or they break these resistance levels like this, you know, you can definitely take a chance. We talk about this trade all the time, boxing in at midband. I mean, even with that red midband, we would still box that in at midband, especially if it took out that trend line. Okay, everybody see that? Because see, the thing is, when you have to almost change like a full trend to ever get colors to change, you know, they really help like on the retraces, but they don't help when it comes to your initial break of trend changes. Let's see, do I always give a trend line stop set above swing to go, take it, give a trade room to move, or do you have rules to dump it. Well, what I like to do personally, Brian, matter of fact, seeing this right here, see, I see a low, these lows right here. I would more than likely, if I was in this trade, draw a trend line. And we're in this trade, so let's go ahead and draw it, as a matter of fact. And see, that's already breaking my trend line right there. So more than likely, I would probably just do this. If I see it break that trend line and it closes, I'm going to be out of that trade. If it closes back up above it, I'll be in it. And you could also simply put it like touch plus like 4 below that trend line and get out of all your contracts if it breaks it. Okay. Now, could this actually just, now keep in mind that's a trend line, but that's also like lightning. You have a high here, okay, a high, low, higher high. That's a lightning swing, and that will change to red. So could I get out if that changes to red? Especially if it hits previous resistance. See there? It's hitting previous resistance that we already had drawn on our chart. Okay, because we drew this earlier when we were drawing, when we first got in this webinar. Remember, we were drawing support and resistance. Let's see, I still do not understand why long at 62.58 based on what I can understand when one is using some oscillator or counting waves or such, but your chart is red short. There was a nice short. Well, but keep in mind, still, Art, on your question there, if a person was to get in here, it's strictly because of the trend line. Now, keep in mind that as this was bottoming out, you had a low here, a high here, a little higher low, higher high. Now, this is still lower than this. So usually what I do on mine is I draw a line across here, like so, and box it. Would I have been in at 58? Yeah, maybe, but you got to be careful with that one. Because the whole thing is, though, if you got in at 58, you literally just don't let it take your stop out. But that is still, based on that, is actually a trend line break. Okay? And those can be quite good for your health. I mean, you can lose on some of them, but as a rule, you trade these things and they're pretty good. Because trends will always change a trend line like that long before they'll change this to green. You want to see when this changed to green, actually? Now granted, you could be looking for a pullback trade, and as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I called that trade in the room. We'll wait for 750 and I'll show it to you if this chart moves quick enough. It's pretty slow. All right, but see, I would be out of that trade, see, because it broke that trend line. I'm flat. Okay. Now, predictors, I don't have a green predictor yet. Okay, so I'm looking for a retrace into a green predictor to see if I can get another trade, but I've got to get at least 10 ticks to my next resistance level. Okay, drawing on my chart. Okay, let's see, my object trader is not on my charts anymore. Michael, well, if it's not on your charts, basically all you have to do is right click and go to strategies and make sure that it's in this little box here and that it's enabled. I can go over that with you on TeamViewer, if you don't see that. Okay. Now, Art, keep in mind though that when this started stair-stepping, back up and took out this swing across here, this was actually changing trends. We teach this trade as a trend change, but you still want to be, smart about taking it. I like to, in my mind's eye, I like to draw trend lines on my chart. Okay. Now, if you had gotten up and you were looking at this, well, you had several shorts up here, which we just took a few minutes ago. Okay. But, when this broke this trend line and started stair-stepping back up, this didn't turn green until right there, literally on that line. So, you don't want to wait that long for the green, because we actually do take trades way down here, but they have to be breaking trend lines and they have to break resistance. Now, to me, I would not have taken the 58 except for, You know, if I saw the trend line and I had been up, if I would have taken it, I would have probably put a tight stop on it. But this trade would have been a no-brainer to me. I would have taken this one because it broke resistance and it broke the mid-band. And that's a trade we absolutely teach. Okay, now let's see if we can get in. While we're in this webinar, we've been in 41 minutes, right? Now I want to see the opening of the market. I want to see if everybody can pick the trade. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward this for almost 2 hours. And let's just see if we can get the room open. And this will go counting fairly quick. We'll just let it do its thing. Remember, we drew our resistance lines on the chart. There's 601. I could fast forward this, but if I do, we'll lose our data over here and we may lock up. So I'm just going to let it do its thing at 500 times. I want to see if everybody can pick out the trade. Because to be fair, we don't open the room until 7:55. So all of this is like overnight trading. And you're welcome to trade your own and everything. And by the way, when Raymond sent that Skype and was in that at 58, that was a heck of a trade. I mean, that was a very, very good trade. Was it risky? It was risky, but I'm sure he had a pretty tight stop on it because he got in at 58 and it never really took it back down. Okay, and you saw the Skype. I hope he was okay with me showing that Skype, but anyway, saw some of my other Skype partners like my wife and my son, Charles, some other people. Okay, let's see if we'll get to 7:55, and I'm going to show you how and why the trade was called in the room, and these are called live. I mean, this isn't, you know, after the fact. Now, if you weren't in this trade from way down here, see, you wouldn't be taken out of this trade just yet if you used the lightning swings. See what I mean? Because your stop would be here, right where my line's at. So you'd still be in this trade. Okay? But I drew a tight trend line, so I got out. And sometimes you'll get out very early on a tight trend line. If you do, you have no choice but either to jump back in at a minimum criteria, which it never hit, or just wait for the trade to retrace. Okay? Because if you get in, you know, like on a thrust, you're liable not to, you know, be able to get the 10 ticks that you need. Okay, so let's go to, we're almost to 7:55, a little ways away from it. Now see, predictor's printing right there above mid-band. See it right here? So it knows by this price action to print here. Now, when I see that, I draw on my chart. I see a swing right here where predictor's at. I see support right under here, which they barely wicked. They're now double topping. You can clearly see it. And usually when they do that, they'll more than likely take out support. And they'll give us a retrace trade. Let's see if we can get it. 7:55 is what we're waiting on. Let's see, would that be a, oh, here we go. Not quite, still 45 minutes. Would that be a phantom trade? Oh, up here? Yes, but keep in mind, if you boxed it, you would have never gotten short. Sometimes though, you know, when you're trading, a lot of it comes from really watching charts and, you know, just seeing what's going on. You know, this was kind of telling you that they couldn't take these lows out anymore. And they just literally started stair-stepping up. And when they took out that resistance at 68, that was almost a no-brainer that it was going to head up. Okay, 50, we've still got a little bit of time. We've got 20 minutes to go. Let's see if we can all figure that trade out. Let's see. So do you understand that, Art, why he did that at 58? You know, I showed you the Skype where he actually said it. Now, and like I said, would I have taken that trade? Well, if you think about it, that's a low, that's a high, that's a higher low. The moment it broke that little swing right there, it was actually getting a power meter green. Okay. But to me, until it took out this swing right here, it wasn't really heading up, because I see a high, a low, a lower high, and a lower low. So pretty much has to take out that 68 to me. But on a trend line trade, it was a heck of a trade. I wish I'd been up at 4:30, because like I said, I didn't get in till right in this area right here. But I still was able to get, a good trade. I traded that one on my son and daughter's account and nailed that trade just like I drew it right there. Did it go up a little bit further? Yeah, and I didn't care. Because to me, if you can get a trade and you can get $300 or $400 and they do take out a trend line, who cares about the rest of the trade? Okay, remember this? Okay, this is 747. Now, what would you do if you were looking at this at your computer right this very minute? Anybody? You could start boxing this in right now, right? Okay, because this type of trade, matter of fact, this looks like it's going to be a good trade to me to begin with, because see, it just hit support where I drew my trend or my horizontal line. So let's be fair. Let's go to 755 and see if we can get a trade. Remember, I said in the room this morning, we opened it up. You could actually be in this trade even right about this time. Let's see if we can get this trade at 755, 757. See it breaking that swing right there? Sometimes you just got to literally just jump in. See there? It broke the swing and it was heading up. Everybody see that? Now, to me, the trade was down here, but the room wasn't open yet, to be fair about it. So, by getting in at this spot that I just did, that was a little bit more fair. Is it going to take me? It might. We'll see. We'll see. Didn't. All right, everybody see that? Now let's diagnose this trade without the room open at all, okay? Because I want to show you how you should take this trade. All right. Remember, if you got out of a trade, you've got to wait for either, a minimum criteria or even a mid band, or if you take a chance, like even say right across this area right here after I got out, I got out on the trend line break. If you jump right back in, you got to jump right back in and then put your stop just under. Okay, I don't like that a lot of times because they'll usually check this lower swing. But that one did go up. All right, and the trend line was pretty tight. All right, but let's look at this over here and see how could you actually take this trade based on lightning. I'm going to use the little black chart to show you real quick, okay? I like the little black chart real well. And let's get rid of the lines on it. And let's go ahead and draw lightning 1. Everybody see this right here? You're heading down, you're retracing. Do you see that you're actually starting to break lightning right across here? So could you actually box this when it starts stair-stepping back up? And see, remember I said in the room this morning, it would come back on top of that box. See what they do? They thrust up and they pull back. And I even had a line drawn on top of the box in the room because I said put your stop, remember? I said put your stop just below that line. And it had to close, and it never did. Okay? And then that turned out to be a decent little trade. Okay? And that's literally from just drawing on your charts. What does everybody think about possibly using some trend lines? I want to show you the same thing in Russell just real quick. Bear with me a second. And I'm going to pause this for just a second because I don't want you to see after. I want you to see as the trade was triggering, okay? Bear with me a second. All right. All right, looking at this chart right here, I see support down here at the bottom on my longer term. I see resistance up here. I see resistance up here. All right. And if I get anything higher than this, I should head back up, right? But only if it bounces. And could you actually draw trend lines on your charts? You know, because this was a little phantom trade at about 4:30 in the morning, but this was also a trend line type trade, and a person could actually draw your little trend line like above those lows, right, or above those highs, pardon me, like so. All right, and watch this little trade here. Okay, you got in and then it took you right back out. Okay, so if you get into a trade on a trend line and you get a bar up and a bar down, I usually kill it, because that way you're pretty much out at cost. Okay, because you'll get faked on a trend line otherwise. Then you just simply draw your trend line again. Okay, and then you watch and see if you can draw another trend line. Let's see if we can do it. Bear with me a second. I'll see if I can get that trend line to actually work. Here we go. All right, and remember, if it doesn't take out support down here, it's still an uptrend, right? Okay, so could you draw a trend line like that and get a trade? All right, remember, if the bar goes up and the bar goes right back below the trend line, you can get out, but that one didn't. See there? And then that one reversed a little bit, and then you actually started going back up. Okay, those are decent little trend line breaks. Now, where could you have also gotten in this trade though, if you're a little bit more of a conservative trader? All right, that was a trend line break. Look to the left to trade the right, and you see a thrust down, retrace, thrust down. So you have resistance right across here. Draw your lines on your chart. Okay, and when it breaks that, if it breaks that, see it broke it. All right, could you box this in at mid-band? And the answer is yes. Okay, now if you take a trend line type trade and it goes against you at all, like that first one did, you just get out of it. If it pops up enough to give you some profit and then comes back to like cost, you're still okay. But if you do a trend line break and they do that immediately, that was nothing but a minimum criteria trade, but technically it wasn't a short because the mid-band was still yellow. Okay, but could you box this in like even right here, like we teach? You know, bias is starting to be the upside, right? Because it's got a low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Could you box that in? So you could. Okay, and notice that it came right back down on top of support. So you draw your lines. If you got in, for instance, if you box this in, this didn't ever close, by the way, so you never got that trade. Everybody see that? See, if you boxed it like that, this never closed above the box, it closed on the box. So as this thing pulls back into support, you rebox it. But let's just say you even got that, it still held support, so you could still be in the trade. Okay, let's see, let me see, do you wait for it to close back below the trend line to get out? No, because it depends on how you draw your trend line. Like right here, to give an example, if you had drawn this trend line like I did just a minute ago, and keep in mind a trend line is not a breakout type, it's more of just a trend line break, and when it broke that and then immediately went down like that, yeah, you definitely want to get out of that trade, because usually that's nothing but a fake, and they never really took out resistance to begin with. See, they just kissed it. So the best trade to take on that is, instead of a trend line, is to wait for them to break that resistance, which they did on no bar there, and then they broke the trend line again. So you never broke resistance. So you did break the trend line again down here. And it depends on if you redrew it too, because you know, if you got bid on one trade, you got to redraw your trend line, thrust, retrace, thrust, and you still got in your trend line right through here. Now this might have been one that I would have probably gotten out again though, because if it went up and comes back down on a bar, I'll usually get out. Because to me, $30 hit is nothing like, you know, this thing rolling over and taking out those lows. Okay? But your best way to take it is actually to wait for it to stair step back the other direction. And they'll usually do that. You know, for instance, this one here, if you boxed here, that was pretty much breaking that resistance right there. Let's see, it looks like a lot of trendline breaks also changes PM. Yeah, the thing is, keep in mind that if you had taken this trade, let's say you were up at 430 and you took this phantom trade, all right, at line 1, you might have gotten 8 ticks or so and then right back in your face, so you're out. And I don't take it a second time to begin with. You know, that's your first time after trend change. That's second time after trend change, but it did ratchet up. But I do also always look at my charts though, and if I see like a higher low, like this right here, I will draw a trend line on a chart and try to get that trade. And keep in mind that, you know, if you want to trust, you know, trade a little bit more, just don't let it go back below the trend line that you draw. That would work too, but that'll probably cost you about 8 ticks. So that'd be about $40 a contract. Okay? Everybody see how we do this? I also called this trade in the room this morning, remember? This was a phantom trade. We perfectly got that trade. Does anybody remember this trade right here? That was also a phantom trade. Did anybody take that one in the room? That was also a nice trade. See there? Just box it in. Could you have done a trend line on this one? Little retraces, draw your trend line. I would think so. Because you're drawing it right down through there and you're getting in. So yeah, definitely. You know, just remember the tighter the trend line is, the more likely you're going to get faked. Okay? Because that does happen, especially if you're going against the backgrounds and everything. But the stair stepping will usually not lead you wrong. Let's go back here and see when this stair stepped. I'm just curious. 7:20. That was about 7 o'clock. Let's just try that. And then we're going to wrap here pretty soon. Let's go to 7:01. And then we'll watch this trade and see when this changed to green. Bear with it a second, it's loading. Not quite where I wanted it. Let's go back one more. I want to see where that turned green. I think it would be right here. Come on, change. Not responding, that's not good. There it goes. Still already green, darn it. Let's go back one. There might get a red, let's see. See, that actually went green. That's the beauty of this little indicator. This would have actually gone green right here on the close of a bar, on that bar. Okay? Now, watch when this one turns green. This one will be a little bit later. More than likely, it'll have to take this swing out. Let's see when that one turns green, just for the fun of it. Might even be right here when it crosses this one. Because you definitely have 2 candles up and 2 candles down, so that should, if it takes that out with a close. We're going 500 times, so that's as much as we can go. Let's see when this turns green. I personally like to start stair stepping, but if I do that, you know, for instance, if I box this in down here on that first little green power meter, I'd probably only do it with like one contract, and then I might add another one if that one turns green, or if you know, it holds on top of the box and you know, very possibly breaks a previous swing to the left. See, that's not turning green just yet because it did not close above that wick yet. And you can tell that if you draw lightning too, because it's not drawn yet. See, it would be a green one if it closes above that. That's what I thought. Still not closed above it. It's looking to the left to trade the right. It's going to be this swing. There it is. See it? Just broke that swing. So that's when both of them. So this one changed down here, the first one, and then the next one changed right there on that swing. Like I say, that's a little bit deeper swing break than the lightning one. Okay? But clearly you can see if you draw trend lines on your charts and utilize the tools and everything. You know, for instance, this morning, you know, this easily did a nice trend line break and actually headed up pretty nicely after that. We didn't call this trade on Russell though, remember, in the room, until it came back down to Phantom. I'm pretty sure that it was around right around 8:30, if I remember right, that it did the Phantom. Okay. Now, if you're a little bit more of a not such a risky trader, then what you want to do is you want to actually, for instance, right now, see it's got resistance right here. It's got support right here. It shouldn't take out this swing right here. See, I'm trying to diagnose it in real time. So that, for all intents and purposes, should bounce right off that line. See there how I diagnose that? I do this every morning. So that would be a good entry right there also. Right where it comes back and hits where you draw on your charts. Okay, and if you miss it, unfortunately, you know, you just missed a trade. But see how I drew that in real time where you could actually see that? That's what you got to do. You got to draw those lines. You're looking at more the lightning 3 support and resistance, and you're looking at minor support and resistance also. I don't know if anybody trades these also, but this is the 8 o'clock, and you can even box this little jewel in if you want. And if it happens to go, and this is heading up, so you're not really looking as much for shorts, and you just box it in at the little box. Since Russell's $5 a tick, probably something like that, and I usually use touch plus 2. And remember that little trade also, that's your time box right there. See, there's your little trade. Okay, so, you know, wherever you get a trade, the whole thing is that you've got to make sure that you get it, you know, when you get the retrace, you know, or if it breaks these little boxes. You know, this broke a nice trend line, so could you have boxed it in way down here thinking, well, if it breaks this area right here, this is probably heading up. And what does it do? It kisses it and heads up. Okay, so learn to draw on those charts and keep in mind that if you had this trend line drawn on your true trend, this would all be green. This would all be green right here. Okay, but we've got to train our eye to get into these trades early enough, especially when they start stair-stepping back up. Look to the left and always make sure, what's my overall trend? You know, overnight by 3 in the morning, the overall trend was still up. They had to take this out to ever head down, and they gave a higher low. So that was almost a no-brainer type of a trade by boxing it in, or boxing it in here even, or boxing it in above here even. See what I mean? So there's several entries on there. Just depends on what time you were at the computer. Anybody have any questions? I hope this made a bunch of sense, that everything was understandable and all that. Let's see, do you want to, okay, wait a second. Love them, they seem harder to use on. RTY is a little bit harder to use on trend lines. What I like, and that's a good point, Brian, what I like on Russell more than anything is actually the stair stepping. Okay, because Russell does a good job of stair stepping. And like, let's say for instance you were still in that trade, could you draw a trend line underneath the lows? Let's just see. Okay, pretend you're in the trade from way down here where we had it. and you're still in, redraw your trend line, and you're out. See there? So that actually broke that trend line right there. Now, was that accidental that that was drawn at the perfect spot like that? No, because you draw your trend lines, and then if they just barely touch them, for instance, you know, like say this one right here that I drew right here, well, you could be out on that bar anyway. Okay, but I also like lightning, and that pretty much would have changed lightning. Thrust down, retrace, thrust, and the moment it closed below that swing, you would have gotten a red power meter. So getting out here or even up in here was pretty close to the same anyway. But drawing those trend lines on your charts makes a world of difference, because these markets are like yo-yos. I mean, you go up 50 ticks, you go down 50 ticks. You go up 50 ticks, you go down 30. You know, you've just got to really just trade it accordingly to what you actually see at the time. Okay? Now, what does anybody think? Do you think that more than likely that this is going to have a phantom type trade? Could you draw a trend line on this chart? There's support right there. There's your trade. I don't know why that did that. Touch outside. That must have been something to do with that, where that price was actually at the time, because it never really touched on the other side of my trend line. But keep in mind that historical data can be different than what really happened in the market in real time. So it looks like we got the trade right where we wanted it. And we would put our stop nice and tight. Okay? Now, what would it take to actually break this trend? Well, you'd have to draw on your chart still, right? As soon as this gets a lightning 3, then more than likely that would be your little higher low. But this trade was also called in the room this morning right off of Phantom. And I don't remember exactly how far it ran, but I was in ES. Remember, I called that trade on ES, and I called this one. But the ES trade was not near the runner that this Russell was. Okay? Trend lines and boxes, and watch the power meters on retraces, and you'll do quite well. Trust your, mid-band and below. For instance, if you boxed this at mid-band, you never fired long. If you boxed it here, never fired long. It finally came to Phantom, and you fired it long. And where did it come back and kiss? Right where it had broken out. That's why you draw your lines on your charts. See how that came almost to it within the tick? If they break out of an area and don't pull back into that area before they take off, they'll usually check it. You'll find that time and time again. And if you weren't in this trade like right this very moment, you could easily jump in this trade, even boxing it in at mid-band. Okay? All right, I hope this helped everyone. We're going to do this real tomorrow. Hey, by the way, Charles will be back in the morning. All right, we talked this afternoon, and I told him to take the week off if he wanted to, but he's anxious to get back in the saddle. So we will, who knows, he may share the gory details, hope not, but he shared them with me today, and wow, he was very blessed to not have had worse situations, because they had to even take some cartilage from under his arm and stuff. He had a really bad infection, and something to do with even connecting something to his heart. So yeah, that was a major infection. All right, thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will do this for real in the morning. And this was a tad on the choppy side today, so there's a possibility tomorrow's going to be just an awesome day. Okay, thanks everyone for coming. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll have this posted in a bit. Did I miss anybody's question at all? Please type it in if I did, because I don't like to miss questions. If anybody had any at all, just type in question, and then I'll wait. Okay, see how that actually did right there? higher lows, higher highs. It's heading up. All right. I don't see any. So if anybody did, please get in touch with me, and I'll be more than happy to help you on that. Okay. And again, keep in mind, if when you're trading on these charts, if you're leery of a trade going your way, then dip the toe with only like one contract until you're sure, because if you jump in with too many, then obviously if you get stopped out, you're going to be chasing the way back. Okay, because there's times I'll say in the room, I'm just going to try one here, and if it goes against me, I'm out. It might cost me $40. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you tomorrow morning.